Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SoCal Summer Swing Off podcast. The music you are currently listening to is called Dances in the Night by Papa D, a fellow swing dancer, musician, artist, and friend. You can find all links for streaming, socials, and videos down below. Make sure to go and support him. Now let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SoCal Summer Swing Off podcast. I'm your host, Andre. If you haven't already, follow us on all the socials, because today we have one of the best triple threats in the entire world here. What's up, Jeremy? Good to have you,
Where is that person?
How are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. It's a Friday. I think Jeremy and I are still in work mode because we both technically got off, right?
That's right. Technically get off. I got a call and I got
Oh, Jeremy just that was the shortest interview ever. I think Jeremy just got a phone call. Hold up. What's up?
I think you should just do that and just leave it like that. Like, I have to work, bro. I gotta work. I have other duties.
That was funny. I kept recording actually, so that was funny.
Oh man, dang! And I like literally got a phone call. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to turn off "Don't Disturb" on my phone.
That's all good. Hey, if we didn't have technical difficulties, would it actually be a Zoom call? I feel like we
Right?
always have to have one, right?
Oh man.
All right. Well,
Okay.
let's go ahead and get started because essentially, I really wanted to chat with you, and thanks so much for taking the time, by the way,
Yeah.
because you have such an interesting story and you view dance very specifically. So let's start. There are some people listening who might not know who you are. So if you could just give us like a quick intro of who Jeremy Otth is, I think that's a great starter.
Sure. I'm a normal dude. I'm a Southern California kid at probably heart. Didn't start dancing till I was 22 years old.
Oh,
So it was a lot later. I ended up seeing the movie Swing Kids, and hey, that was a big hook for many of us.
yeah.
I started dancing back in 1995.
Uh-huh.
I was going to school up at Santa Barbara at a school called Westmont, and we did like off-site school dance, and they were teaching East Coast swing, and I learned it there. I learned swing there, and then went home for the summer, and my dad and my sister were taking swing classes at Pasadena Ballroom. So I
Oh.
learned how to dance like from Aaron Stevens and Stephen Mitchell and like people who had hung out with like Frankie Manning and with the Swedes and stuff like that. So I think I got a good start into like connecting with original dancers somewhere, a roundabout way. Um, and Yeah, I just started from there. I danced classes for like a year, and then later on sort of went off on my own and studied a little bit more of the dance history and like videos and such. But
Mm-hmm.
for that, dance was not even on the radar. I grew up
Mm.
skateboarding and surfing, and like uh nobody really danced in my family, but my mom did show me the Charleston. So she knew the
Hey.
Charleston step, and she will do it to this day, but I think that's the only move she knows.
Yeah.
uh, but I grew up in playing jazz, so my connection is because I grew up playing the guitar because most kids do in California because you want to be a rock star when you're young. Uh, so, but I was pretty decent at the guitar, so I ended up playing in jazz band in my high school, and that's where I learned some, like jazz standards, and then of course that connection, enjoying that music, and growing up with like my dad did like toy trains, and was connected a lot to like toy trains in like old Hollywood. So I
Mm,
grew up like black and white movies and was like, okay, I sort of get the culture, the history of like the era, even
mm-hmm,
though I hadn't really seen the dances beside like Fred Astaire or somebody, you know, like
mm-hmm.
but that connection was like, oh, I like that music. It was fun. It seemed like a classy time. I want to know more about it. So uh I guess that's a condensed version of like, and I started dancing. That's how they sort of all just merged together, and that's why I probably fell in love with it because I had all those ties. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's so textured and layered. Wow. Um,
yeah,
and I'm just curious, but because I know there are several people who watch Swing Kids. What
yeah.
scene was it that you're like, that's what I want to do? What moment was it for you?
Oh man. Is that well? They're in a like, jam circle, so like
Yeah.
that's the jam circle. Like, ooh, what's that? And you know they have that. I don't know the actor's name, but he's up there. He's like jamming on the Django guitar. You see him riffing, and then they pan over, you know, like doing a jam, and then you're watching like people slide through the legs and do all that stuff. I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. You know, I'm young and have a bunch of energy. Uh, and being the skateboarder that I was, it's like let's just do crazy stuff because that's what I did on my skateboard. So
Yeah, that I can those scenes specifically stay in my mind because it's the joy that everyone had while they
yeah.
were doing it. Right? I know they were acting and stuff, but I remember that vividly. So I was curious, how when you started dancing when you were 22, when you literally got into it, did your own study, when did it click with you that like I want to do this for the rest of my life?
Oh man, that was never on the radar.
Really?
But yeah, I started like this was a hobby of mine that I would borderline maybe say it's an escape. I work like my degree is in psychology,
Hmm.
and I worked for a mental hospital for 4 years. Like when I get out of the hospital, like when I get out of the hospital, when I get off work, let's say, choose your words wisely. Okay, so like no, I would finish and then I would go down to the Derby and dance there. So I'd have like playtime or like relief time would be like going out and dancing and having, enjoying that. Is it joyous? You know, like it could be sad or just more serious at work,
Hmm.
um, and then you know you can just go out and have fun. Um, but I guess so. In terms of like when did it become more of like a career? Uh, that happened later in I guess 2005 and 2006. So I started dancing in 1995, end of 95, 96, and I had learned dance classes for like a year and a half. Then I went on my own, and then I saw other people like Peter Loggins and Eric and Sylvia and Alicia and Minvo and like some of these other people, and I met them along the way, and some of them started doing these travel gigs. I mean, back then though, it was like there weren't many gigs at all, uh, but it was cool. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to teach at some of these events. So I was interested in like teaching for people, and people would approach me like because they wanted to learn, you know, the style. And I tend to have more of like I guess a vintage style when dancing because I study a lot of these clips.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. And then I would get like randomly hired, but I didn't have like a regular partner that well, I did have partners, I guess, but it wasn't like today where there's so many camps. So it would
Mm.
maybe like one or two events out of the year. And then Camp Hollywood didn't really start jumping until like 97, 98. In Yeah, there was like that was one camp, and the other camp was Camp Jitterbug, and I forget what year that started.
Hmm.
And I taught there a couple times, like on and off. So, um, and then because I was still working full time, and then like I met Laura Keat in 2005, like 2005, 2006, And I was teaching with Tisei Chow at a Balboa event out in Cleveland. And I was I got tired of Balboa because Balboa at that time was didn't have a whole lot of content. So I like
Mm,
to do all the things. I grew up doing all the things. I
mm-hmm.
learned Lindy Hop first. That was my first love, and then I learned Balboa and collegiate shag later, and then like Charleston and tap and all this stuff. So that progressed. But 10 years forward, because it's like now 2006, like I'm like, okay, now I'm more, I definitely love Balboa more. Like I'm getting more interested because we had built the dance. Like before it
Mm,
was like we didn't have much content. And like literally, I feel like Balboa and Shag were like when you do like a bunch of swing outs, you're like, okay, now it's time to do some Charleston because I got to turn my brain off, or like
mm,
doing something like, or just like a side dance for a moment, like in a
yeah,
song. Um, or just if the music just like fit the dance, then it's like, well, sure, let's do Balboa to this song or whatever. But I
yeah,
feel like there just wasn't as much vocabulary, so it was hard, or I would get bored. My brain would get bored quite quickly. Like, oh, I need to do more. Um, so, anyways, um, going back to your question, because I'm going about around, I'm skirting around the issue, but uh, I guess what hit it off for me, like really, was I had been doing like just occasional gigs, and then I met Laura, and then I found her like I saw that she was a great Lindy Hopper. She was like a rising Lindy Hopper, and I was at this Balboa camp. I'm like, okay, I want to grab you because you're going to be really good. I can like I'll let me work with you, and I'll let's see if anything works. And we should come to California. And she knew Nick was there and Mikey was there, and like so it was a great opportunity for her to come out and work with a bunch of us leads who really didn't have partners and like learned a bunch of stuff that we had been studying.
yeah.
So she came out and then we worked together, and then we worked for like a year, uh, and then I lost my job in 2008 because of the economy crisis. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what sort of shot it off into like it propelled the whole career. So I lost my
Mm-hmm.
IT job, and then it was like, okay, so I can go hunt for another IT job or temporarily because everything's sort of messed up. Let's just see if this thing works. So I'm never going to get an opportunity. I'm like, I'm 30. I'm waiting any longer is going to be too late.
Yeah.
So I tried it, and it sustained me for I don't know, like till COVID, and then COVID killed it again. So, but like that's a good solid decade of like dancing. And Laura's so awesome. Like, uh, she learns super fast, and like she's a really talented dancer and communicator and teacher. So, like, I think we did really well for our time. Like when we were teaching full time, and we got to travel and teach to a lot of places. And the fact that we do all the dances makes us a commodity, like something special. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't like whatever the hot thing is, because that time it was mostly Lindy Hop camps. And sure, I can do Lindy Hop. What style Lindy Hop do you want to do? Because I like at that time I had done like old Hollywood style, but like about like 2003, 2004, I started getting more into like Harlem style stuff and like studied a bunch of that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then even Lauren and I danced for Frankie 95, and we did the Congaroos and like did a bunch of stuff uh like commemorating like Frankie and Ann and just like the beautiful stuff that's coming out of Harlem. So like I love it all. And then I think my interest for um like I guess just all these amazing dancers is to try to just try them on. Like, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know who this Hal person is, or I want to know who these shag dancers are. Like, this is all beautiful dancing, and I feel like I'm okay enough, and I can study these clips and watch it and sort of mimic it. So I feel okay, you know. So
Wow, that's really cool because I remember That's so neat how like you had that dance journey. And I
Yeah.
remember we chatted a little bit about like how you and Laura started like working together and stuff.
Hmm.
I was gonna say like finding that person is so special. Like what, let's say someone is right now a rising star, or I guess that's a good question. What makes someone a rising star, just from your perspective?
Man, it could be a multiple things, but I would say from my perspective or from like California, Hollywood, I mean California like Dance Hall of Fame, that kind
Uh,
of
let's say from your perspective, because I like your
from
perspective.
right. Or what do I value? So if I put in the context of like what I value as a dancer and what
Mm,
I very important, um, I think someone who my favorite dancers are somebody who's of course is like has studied a lot, probably has good solid
mm,
movement, um, but someone who's passionate about the dance and really truly loves it, loves the music. Um, but in terms of like someone who's really good, is you're gonna have to probably to some degree show your talent to some level. So you're gonna probably have to compete. I never wanted to compete, by the way. Like
oh,
it was never, no, yeah, no. Like I have a theater background. I have a mixed background. I'm like a mixed bag of nuts, man. I'm all over the place, like a skateboarder, theater, psychology. It's just like all over the place.
yeah.
But so anyways, like I guess uh, so showing yourself like in competition, showing that I don't know, you probably can learn at a probably a good rate. That's I guess that's what I've understood. I guess that's a learned thing, something that I've learned. Somebody that's like a faster learner in
Hmm.
terms of more natural skill set. But I don't want to say that that's it because there's some beautiful dancers out there that I consider they are noteworthy that might not be winning all the contests. So
Mm,
I don't want to say you have to win contests. And I think there, like, I gain so much from actually just watching the room and watching just good movement.
mm,
I get it all the time. So, like, to those of you out there, or those of you who are like, I can't compete, or I never win first place or second place, or blah blah blah. I'm like, don't worry about that. Like, there's still so much value to you, and like what
mm.
you've seen, um, in I don't know, in just in general, um, probably just as a community and just being a person maybe that's a light in the community or just good encouragement and uh, yeah, there's just so many facets to making the community like go well, like
Yeah.
friendship and bonding and like community based events and yeah. Uh, anyways, okay, sorry,
No,
but yeah,
no.
like they're all winners. No,
Yeah, no, no.
no, but
I
like
think,
there's
yeah,
yeah. Depends
I
on
think,
what you want to put. I feel like most people, a lot of people, if you put the work in, if you put the 10,000 hours in, I think you can. Most people can do pretty good, like decently. You might not like be like uh there's no best dancer in the world, in my opinion. Like everybody just
uh-huh.
like you get to the top and it's like, okay, yeah, there's this like league, but they all have specialties. So it's not like somebody's mastered all these specialties,
Hmm.
very unique. So, um, but yeah. But I think everybody has something to contribute at all different levels. Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
no, I think that's such a fantastic answer. I love how you, I want to dig on that piece in a little bit here, but about you like not wanting to compete at the beginning. But
okay.
before that, I love how you mentioned all those different pieces that make someone a good dancer, including the fact that competitions do not equal being like an amazing dancer. Just because you don't win something does not mean you're a great dancer. I feel like a lot of people need to hear that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. They feel people, it feels like if I'm not getting enough likes or I'm not winning all these contests, then I suck.
Mm,
Or if I make too many mistakes, I suck. And it's like, sure, you can consider all that. But I don't, I think in the long, like I'm 20 years into this, 22, maybe 25, whatever, do the math.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, Sylvia Sykes told me this, and that is a great thing. She's like, remember this, and this is us back in, it's got to be, I need to be a decade ago now. She's like, no one's ever going to remember where you placed in a competition.
Mm,
Like majority of people will not remember that, but they will remember something cool you did. So that's what they're going to remember. They're not going to care that you won, but they're going to want to get something, or like they'll be inspired by something you did. So just take that. You like, we're all go in taking it from the community, and you just give back, and you're like, yeah, okay, here and that's how much you want to invest. Like if you invest a lot, you'll probably end up giving a lot more in certain certain aspects of the dance or the community or whatever. Yeah.
that
So
that I wrote that down. That's a great quote. Speaking of the quote and like what you mentioned about putting in the work, you, sir, put in so much work. I remember one time I came out of the annex and you and Julie Roman were sweating buckets and you've been there for like 8 hours or something. But like, where do you get this energy from? Goodness.
I don't know, man. uh, I do not know. I do have a lot of energy. I think I guess if I had to pat myself on the back, I would say I probably could wear out your modern dancer, and they probably these people that are like half my age. I mean, I could probably outdance you in terms of like cardio. I don't
Mm,
know what it is. Maybe it was me just skateboarding my brains out as a young person and doing a bunch of cardio stuff, but I can't say
uh-huh.
that's true. It might have just been one of those things. I don't know. Maybe it's my genetic makeup. I have no idea. Like, I wish I could tell you, but like Laura Keat will say this. She's like, Jeremy's he is so unique because the more tired he gets, the more energy he gets. Like it works in opposition. Like it just it's so odd.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens. Like everybody else will be like, oh, and like, but I'll get more tired, and then somehow my adrenaline even pumps more, and I'll just like push myself through, almost like a second wind, third wind, whatever it is. And I'm like wearing people out, and they're like limping off the floor. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know where this is coming from.
I guess that's why it's no surprise that oftentimes I'll look into the annex and you are and Jungle will be practicing and going hard because you and her have you're beasts. You both are beasts and like how long you can practice. Goodness gracious.
She's a wild one too, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah, she's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go
no. I'll still box with all of them. And it turns like,
ahead.
you want to box cardio, I'll box cardio with you. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually a perfect segue because you mentioned at the beginning that you didn't want to compete, right?
Yeah.
How, so two questions. How come? And then how did you get into it?
Okay. So how do I? Okay. I forget the first I remember the first performance I did. I don't remember the first contest I did offhand. Uh, but there was a thing called the Satin Ballroom, and they used to have events. And this is closer to, I guess, 2000. I never, I, I didn't compete at Camp Hollywood the first years um, because I really didn't have like a steady partner at that time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I don't think we were ready. Um, but yeah, Satin Ball. Oh, so about like 1998, I met Debbie Carter or Debbie. Uh, and and her and I, like, we competed and we were sort of in that circuit and won a bunch of like contests. Like when we started roaming around, we started to be doing all the early contests of like Shag and Balboa,
Mm-hmm.
Lindy Hop and stuff like that. Even though there's not much footage out there, but they would have like contests like in LA. Like you could go to the Coconut Club or you could go to the Palace and people would front money and we'd be there and we'd be competing against Min and Karina and Tip and Holly and like other just like locals at the time. And yeah, so but I didn't really want to, yeah, like I said, I didn't really want to compete because I get super nervous. And you probably could probably look at me today and go, "You're not nervous. You look like you're just feeding off the audience." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I do. That's I think guess that's the theater side." But
Mm-hmm.
like when I get nervous, I don't always. I feel like I don't dance with the same flow as I do like on a social floor.
Mm.
So I feel like you never get to see you might not see the best side of my dancing competing. So that's why I'm like, to those of you who are like competing, it doesn't show you the best dancer like that. That's just like a small like little window into like of the dance ability because
Mm-hmm.
there's just so much more pressure and it's like it's literally a different skill set to dance within such a tight framework and to have flow and to just like or come up with ideas like if it's just like spur of the moment and make it look good and all the angles like it all matters and you know like what angle you're showing to the judges and all these moves and like yeah. So I always usually walk away so frustrated. I'm like, I might win a contest or I might like do something cool and people are stoked, but I'm like, I'm usually not happy with how I did. So yeah,
I hear you. I hear you.
yeah. So
Let me.
anyway,
So one of the things that I was curious to ask you is we were talking about competing.
mm-hmm.
Competing as like a rising star as an advanced dancer, that's completely different from competing at the professional level because you consistently compete with all these amazing people
Mm-hmm.
like Peter Strom, Naomi, Nick Williams, and
Yeah,
all that Remy and all them. So I'm
right.
curious, what's it like being in that lineup and competing against like the best in the world? I asked a big one, didn't I? My
Yeah,
bad.
big question, man. What is it like? Like, well, I guess from what angle? Like, is it okay? So, does it make me nervous? Yes and no. Like, at some point, I think you probably most of us dancers will probably well, I'm I would say probably a lot of dancers could probably say you probably come to a point where you're like, I can't stress on this because it would be too much and you just
Mm,
dance like you dance you and whatever comes out comes out. So um and that can be a good thing. You know, you're not like like if I'm in my head too much, you're overthinking, that's when usually stuff just doesn't work or doesn't have the best results. So yeah. So I guess I nowadays it's a lot easier to be in those role. I mean, in those situations because you're dancing, you're not trying to actually, I don't know, win. You're just showing your artistic side. You're like here because you come up with you're like a specialty. You know, like this is my you know your specialties. We all like we're top dancers and we all have like you know like these specialties and it's like I'm just going to showcase my specialty the best I can. You know, like sometimes so and so will win, sometimes the other person will win, depending on who you get. If it's like, if it's a you know a mix and match or whatever like that is. So so the results vary. You know, like if it's yeah, and even the results will vary if it's like in a strictly contest. It depends on the band, depends on the setup, depends on what kind of music you're like the segment of the music you're gonna get. Yeah, there's just so many variables at hand, and But yeah, you can't always take yourself too seriously.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I do to a degree, and I care about like my dancing skills, and I'm still working on my dancing skills. So it's not like I just be part of it, like, throwing it all to the wind. But I am definitely, uh, I if I hear him, and if I'm going to just get bummed out on everything, that doesn't real. That's I don't think that's healthy. I think the healthiest thing is you accept where you're at and you appreciate what the gifts that the other people bring to the table and what you can bring. And yeah, so it's all a gift, man. Like to me, I see it as a gift. For me, it's a godly gift. Like I'm bestowed with these talents, and I can try to work on them and get better at them, and just let other people enjoy it. And yeah, so
No, yeah, I can imagine that there are a lot of variables that play into it, and all of you who are up there are very, very talented and gifted, which that kind of got me thinking, like, what is something about being a professional dancer that most swing dancers don't know or aren't aware of?
aren't aware of.
Sorry, I'm hitting you with all these hard,
We
tough
all,
questions. My bad.
we all still get nervous. We all
Uh,
still make mistakes.
uh-huh.
Right. I gotta say, Evan, you think it stops, it doesn't stop.
Mm.
Like it does never. I don't think it ever stops. Uh, like we all have like I don't know, yeah, like lulls in our dancing. You're that's just gonna that's there's just seasons. Like you're just gonna feel good in moments. You're not gonna feel good at the other ones, but you just keep trekking along. Um, yeah. Sorry, with the question again.
No, it was just what do you wish swing dancers knew
Yeah,
that professional dancers have to experience?
yeah. Um, like you already sort of said, what I already mentioned earlier, the contest doesn't define you.
Hmm.
Um, what defines you, and I think makes you memorable. I guess that's your mark, and that's what you want to back to the the community. And it's like who you are as a person, how you lift others and others, and like uh, yeah, let's put it. It. There's always something to take, but there's I think you're gonna probably find the most. I would say this to anybody, like you're gonna find yourself the most fruitful when you're able to give back and love on other people and the community and like get to see other people's joy,
Mm.
and get to see them succeed. Uh, yeah, this time
That
will pass you by. It's gonna be so fast. Like one of the things I did learn that I guess from the old timers is I met them in like their, like the end of their life, and they always said, "Never make this a career. Never make it a career. It'll never take you anywhere." I think times have changed a little bit because we have all these dance camps and such. But like, um, yeah, so yeah, they mentioned that. Uh, but I did see it. It made me sad. One thing that I would like to see different was they were they're in like their 80s, and you could still see that they were still almost like vying for attention in different ways, but still like they'd have like these petty arguments with each other, and like it's almost like go back in high school. I'm like, really, you're like 60 years old, like you could all just be like a lot more easygoing and not have like these divisions, like
mm.
that bums me up. uh, to see the trying to look for the best of each other. But
Mm.
um, yeah, yeah, or you have like clicks or whatever. So um, I think, anyways, uh, yeah,
That was that's something that I've always appreciated about you because that is a common thing that people bring up on the podcast is, oh, whenever we go here and here, there are all these cliques of people that say that feel like you need to be a good dancer to be part of this. But time and time again, I've we've I've hung out with you. You haven't stayed to like one group. You literally are someone who's like a part of the community. And I think that a lot of people appreciate that about you and your classes, honestly. It seems like
Good.
that's where that's coming from, right?
Yeah. Well, I love people. So like uh I love people, and I think I would say I feed off it too. Like I need it, like just as much you enjoy like watching, like anybody who watches enjoys probably watching somebody that's more advanced than them and is getting inspired, or just to be around that. I need it from you folks. I need to be around that.
Mm,
Feel a little stagnant if I was just sort of in my own bubble, like in this like top group and not like learning from like the current things. I'm open to learning. I want to continue to get better in different ways. Because I see you folks, I'm like, oh, you're a little better at me than that. I need to work on that.
oh,
So like I'm still in my head. I'm like, I got a little bit of that, that competitive spirit. I'm like, okay. I see you. I see you.
that's
I'll
so
stay in the
cool.
game. I'll stay in the game. I mean, and then I guess my energy is another factor. It's like, okay, I'm not done yet. You can't put me on the side. Put me in, coach. Put me in. Come
Put
on.
me in, coach.
I'm
I'll
not done
play.
yet.
Well, that's freaking dope. Okay. Well, I know that you are very busy and you got a lot of things to do. So we'll go ahead and head towards the final questions. Make sure you have ample time to answer them and you don't feel rushed.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
So the first question I wanted to ask is where are you traveling to for the next couple of months? What gigs you going to?
Okay, so I got a couple things. It's called my IT job, which is going to happen tomorrow. Oh, combining careers is just fabulous. No, it's really hard. I
Mm,
just got back from Scotland doing some shag, but I'm
mhm,
doing because I guess one that's coming up is I'm going to Prague doing some Balboa. I'm doing Bala in Prague. I had never been to Prague, so I'm excited to go there.
mhm,
And then I'm going to Balbrake, which is in the UK.
mhm,
I'm going there in September, uh, and going to my goodness. After that, it's I know Barcelona, and that's shag. Uh, I know I have some stuff coming up, like in China that we're doing. Going out to Colorado. Um, yeah, that's coming up. That's all like stuff that's up and coming. So, but yeah,
okay.
it'll be fun. I'm busy, but I can only take like honestly, I think it'd probably take 6 or 7 of these jobs a year because I work full time. So it's not like
Mm,
I can't. I yeah, can't do. I can't do all the things.
uh, not yet. Not
So
yet.
yeah. So anyway,
Um, and then the next question is, let's say, how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach you on private? Do you have like socials or anything like that?
yeah. So I wish my presence was bigger on Instagram, but it's not. I'm timed like for all the things. My brain power is. I need my
Yeah.
own. I need my own secretary. So it's just so hard to manage it all. But like the easiest way to reach out to me is like on Facebook. I do most of my communication there. Um, in regards to like Laura and I, there is Elevated Rhythm, so you
Mm,
can visit that. That's elevatedrhythm.com. Uh, or if you just want to reach me by my normal mail, which is Jeremy_Otth, that's OTTH at yahoo.com. So you can hit me up with either of those. Probably the fastest response will probably be Facebook because that's just the easiest to do right now.
hmm.
So unless you want to hit LinkedIn, but that's you're gonna get IT stuff. So like, I'm not gonna put my dance is not up on that.
That's totally fair. Okay.
Oh,
And the last big question that I have, I feel like I've asked you so many like big questions today. right after work too on a Friday. But
That's so
this
good.
is the last one. So this
Yeah.
one is what's a message you want to leave for any swing dancers that are currently listening?
Oh man, keep your head up, keep
Mm,
dancing. Uh, I'm hoping you're doing it because you love the dance in itself, and like I there'll always be disappointments, I think. Just to be honest, but I think finding some positive people and people that are encouraging and that you're having fun with, um, and that you're doing it uh, because you really enjoy it and not to trying to like prove anything. Um, 'Cause I think, yeah, you'll find the most satisfaction there, and just as a yeah, find the most satisfaction. I started dancing. I wasn't trying to date anybody or socialize. I like honestly fell in love with the dance.
mm.
So, and that's why you're seeing me probably have like such like a wide spectrum of likes in this like big circle of swing is because I'm like, oh, and that swing thing and that swing thing. It's like there's just so much about it. But to each their own. Like maybe it's the community that you find it safer, or you just find encouragement and positive influence inside that community. Then all more like be somewhere where you feel appreciated and loved, and like and that you're just having fun. Like life has enough drama of its own. Like there's always something to be critical about, but swing dancing it's it's beautiful because a lot of it tends to bring out a lot of joy and laughter, and like um, you you're allowed to make mistakes in a way. Like so, jazz is about improvisation, and you can perfect that, and some people will be better at that. And yeah. By the way, first time I went out and danced at Rock That Swing. First time we got hired out, I think. Um, that was early on, 2007. So I've been dancing like a decade, and I was so nervous going to that jam circle. And I got into the jam circle, and I was wearing some big wide pants, and I like literally tripped while I was dancing, like
Oh,
tripped over my pants. Like they talk about embarrassment. You've been dancing a decade, and I'm like tripping in a jam circle over my pants. I'm like, haven't you learned that? Haven't you learned that one thing? Like, don't trip. Wear the right clothes. But
wear
anyways,
the right clothes.
wear
Yeah.
the right clothes. Oh man. And you'll have to reach out to either Laura and I will tell you many stories, or even Nick. Like we're all just a history of like crazy stories when we do these gigs. We have fun moments, and life is definitely not perfect. There are a lot of
100%.
fumbles in the
Uh,
process.
you just gave me a great idea for the next podcast. I might just get a bunch of people and have them just talk about their crazy moments from events.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I might do that. All right. Well, anything else? I know that we're coming on time. Anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
No, not at the top of my head. I feel good.
Yeah.
But
And
thank you, like thank you for interviewing me
of
again.
course. Yeah, I'm so glad we finally got this on the books because you're so busy and I'm so busy and
Yeah,
like we finally made it work. And I have to say, you did so good.
I
That's
do.
what you were worried about.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna stop recording here, but don't go anywhere after I stop recording. Just have to do my outro.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, thank you so much for making it. Super appreciate you being here. Um,
Cool. Thank you.
and everyone else, the word for the day to comment down below is uh, you don't have to win to be a good dancer. You don't have to win to be a good dancer.
That's right. You remember that.
So put that down in the comments if you made it to the very end. Thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials down below. I'll put Jeremy's links down there as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. The music you are currently hearing is called Dances in the Night by Papa D. You can find all his links down below. Till next time.
Don't lose hope, trying to stand tall, trying to give this dance of yours the best that you got, cause every time that they hear this sound, that music gets their feet above the ground. Time just seemed to stop in every move. Seems all your life what is based on tonight, and all you gotta do is do it right. You gotta move, you gotta move, you gotta move, move, move. Got to be a dancer.